Okay.
Send it in.
And hello, everybody, to episode 13 of the Puckett Send It In podcast. I am Jake Gibson, joined alongside my friend and co-host Alex Krutchik. And Alex, first of all, I know he had an absolutely fire dinner from Flanagan's, which is where he's coming back from. But we saw once again a very, I would say, non-dramatic game up until the last few minutes of action, but definitely it went the Panthers' way as they defeat the Edmonton Oilers in Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Final by a score of 4-1, taking a 2-0 series lead as the series itself shifts back to Edmonton with Game 3 on Thursday. Alex, that was an absolutely incredible showcase from Edmonton, or I should say an absolutely beautiful showcase from Florida in the second and third periods. Overall, I think there was some discussions about the Oilers outplaying the Panthers in Game 1, but I think there was absolutely no question about it tonight. The Panthers absolutely outclassed Edmonton.
Yeah, I'd love to see that deserve to win-o-meter right now. I'm sure it's all the Panthers right now. No, the Panthers were amazing. They locked down Edmonton. Remember, Game 1, you just alluded to it just now, Edmonton got a lot of chances.
Mm-hmm.
A lot. Like, Connor McDavid was not exactly silenced by the Panthers' defense. He was silenced by Bobrovsky in net, Game 1. But Game 2, everyone was shut down. Can you pull up real quick the shot total at the end of the game? Because I know at the end of the second period, a few minutes into the second period, the Oilers only had 4 shots on goal.
Right.
It was insane. It was like watching them against the Rangers again or watching them against the Lightning again. Just complete domination and shut down their power play as well. And there was a lot of them.
So the total shots, Florida with 29 and Edmonton with 19. So I'd say somewhat even, but definitely Florida had the advantage for the majority of the game as far as peppering Skinner, which they ultimately got by 3 times, and with the final goal being the empty netter. So now, and we'll get to this a bit more later, now Florida has set themselves up for going into Edmonton. They get 3 days of rest. And if they win a single game, they don't even have to go for the sweep. They obviously we'd like to see that, but they don't have to. If they win just one game in Edmonton, they'll have a 3-1 series advantage heading back to Sunrise for that pivotal Game 5. I don't care who you are as far as the Panthers fan base spectrum, but you have to be completely elated with the situation that we're seeing with Florida. Because, again, this is uncharted territory for the Panthers in the Stanley Cup Final, who only just got their first ever lead in the Stanley Cup last game. Now they have a 2-game advantage. And if they get to 3-1, Alex, you and I both know this is not – I don't think this is not a team that would blow a 3-1 lead. I don't see Florida built that way.
Oh, that's a scary statement. I would never say that any team is the kind of team that wouldn't blow a 3-1 lead. But yes, they're a very mature team. They have been able to learn firsthand how to not blow a 3-1 lead because of how Boston blew a 3-1 lead to them last year. But what I love is that much has been made about how hard the travel is going to be on both teams, which, by the way, I don't think the travel is going to be that hard on both teams. I think it's a 4.5-hour plane ride when you're going nonstop and all the seats are first class and you've got Wi-Fi and snacks. It's fine. And they're staying in like a 5-star hotel.
Exactly. Things could be way worse.
Having said that, if for some reason there is a disadvantage to playing on the road, the Panthers have retained home ice advantage by taking these 2 games. And like you said, if the Panthers can manage to win just one game in Edmonton, even if they should lose the other one, they will then have 3 chances to win one game in order to close this out. And again, knock on wood, the Panthers are good enough to get one win in 3 tries. So,
yeah.
But first they have to get one win in Edmonton. So that's the first step.
And we'll go a bit more towards that around the latter stages. So let's get back into game 2 here. I thought Florida was on cruise control for the majority of the first period. They did not look stellar. They originally looked aggressive to begin the period. However, things kind of fizzled towards the middle and latter ends, especially with some of the silly penalties that they gave later on in the game, such as the tripping call on Bennett, the tripping call on Ekman-Larsson. There's even a third tripping call later in the game. I don't know what that was all about, but they definitely shot themselves in the foot, and it all boiled to a 5-minute major game misconduct penalty on Foegele that kicked him out of the game. And just as you think, okay, this is going to be Florida's opportunity to finally get by Edmonton's really good penalty kill, disaster strikes. As, again, Ekman-Larsson's hit with a tripping, and then Elkholm gets the first goal of the series for Edmonton. So I know Florida's power play has struggled, but my God, that was the worst possible thing that could have happened in that series, in that instance, when you get 5 minutes and they get a goal.
They did that a couple times. I mean, yeah, that was the worst of the two. But then later on, the Panthers got a 2-minute power play again. And again, they go to the box for a penalty of their own. They negated their own penalty twice early on in the game.
It's disappointing, and that is the biggest flaw of this Panthers team. At least it was, and we'll get into that later on in the game. But still, Florida's power play. I mean, the announcers have used the adjective dreadful, and I think that's a good description of what it was for the majority of this game. Not to mention game 1, and obviously a big part of that is Edmonton's penalty kill, which is spectacular. But still, Florida, I don't know. There's just something wrong with their power play. I hate to say it, it reminds me of their power play from last year in the Stanley Cup Final, which they couldn't do much. However, obviously both teams are very different, and now Florida has ways to make up for that, such as their absolutely incredible penalty kill, which once again shut out the Oilers on the power play tonight.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, I don't know, and I can't identify what the problem is. It's just they're not getting the same looks that they were able to get. I don't know if it's just adjustments that Edmonton has been able to make with the help of watching film from the last 3 opponents that they've had. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jake. Am I getting my series mixed up? They weren't looking too hot against New York either on the power play, were they?
No, they weren't. They were not. Their power play looked okay against Tampa. It looked okay-ish against Boston. But when you get to New York, obviously New York had an amazing penalty kill. I think they have the second best penalty kill, and now Edmonton with the first. So it's been a tough road for Florida as to get power play goals, not just because of their inefficiency of doing so, but because of the opponents that they play. But with all that said, like I said, I thought Florida was on cruise control in the first. But once you get to the second period, that's when we really start to see Panthers hockey at its finest, wearing down Edmonton, making them make silly choices, and ultimately capitalizing on mistakes. And such is the case for Florida's first goal of the game, scored by Niko Mikkola, which was assisted by Lundell and Tarasenko. But let's be honest, it was also assisted by an Edmonton player that got him the perfect angle for that puck. I can't remember the Oilers, that player's name, but
right, some of the Evan Rodriguez goal, it was Bouchard.
No, it was the Mikkola goal to
sorry about that.
Regardless, it was, again, off of silly mistakes from Edmonton that they caused. And Mikkola, who obviously you wouldn't expect the first Finn to score a goal in the Stanley Cup for Florida to be Mikkola instead of, I don't know, Barkov. But regardless, it was a great-looking goal that kind of caught everyone off guard. Everyone was not ready for that goal. Not Edmonton, not Florida, not the fans in that building, and not us.
No, of course, no. And it was a beautiful goal, though. and it was nice to finally see them break through on one, because until that goal, I really wasn't sure. It looked for a little while. Stuart Skinner had that look in him that we've seen from Bob and Vasilevsky in the past, and Shesterkin, where it's like, I don't know if this guy's going to let in any goals tonight.
Yeah.
So to get that goal, I know goals always feel good. I don't want to state the obvious, but there's certain goals that make you really feel like, okay, the tide has just turned.
Yeah.
Right. Every goal is valuable, but in that moment, I don't know how the players felt, but I can tell you that me and the people that I was watching the game with, up until that goal was scored, we didn't think that a goal was going to be scored at all tonight.
Yeah. That's just the way it was going. It felt like, nothing was going right for the Panthers compared to game one, where they could do no wrong despite arguably getting outplayed by the Oilers in the process. So, regardless, we move on to the third period, which is where, again, the drama starts, right? So many things happened in the third period of this game. It felt like the first two periods combined. That's how spectacular it was. But
it's like that Anchorman scene. It's like that
Anchorman scene,
Jake, that really got out of hand fast.
It did. And again, that giveaway by Bouchard with 3 minutes into the third period resulted in a snapshot from Rodriguez that Skinner could not stop.
Bouchard should get. Sorry, Jake. Bouchard should get an assist for that play. It was a beautiful pass to Evan Rodriguez, man.
I know. Shout out to him. But Rodriguez has had an excellent Stanley Cup Final so far. He's had some great games in the postseason regardless, but there's something about Rodriguez in the Stanley Cup that's just, man, my God, he's doing everything for this team. And now 10 minutes to go, and this is maybe the biggest worry that we have to talk about. The Draisaitl roughing penalty against Barkov. Now,
which I'm surprised it was only 2 minutes, by the way.
I know. I thought it was 5. I thought it was 5, maybe the game. I don't know about the game. Maybe a 5. But so it was a elbow to the head area. Barkov went down. He had to be escorted to the bench and ultimately went to the locker room. He did not return. Now, there were a few players in this game, Luostarinen and Ekblad, both had to go to the locker rooms respectively. However, they both came back into the game, which was good to see. That was not the case with Barkov. Now, they never exactly said what happened to him. My opinion is that he had to go into concussion protocol, and concussion protocol takes around 10 to 15 minutes, which was way less than the actual amount of time that was left in the game. So we don't know how serious this injury is to Barkov. Hopefully it's nothing he hasn't dealt with before. The only positive I can say about this is that he'll have an extra day to get better as for that extra travel day. So I don't know what you saw in that hit and how severe it could be, Alex. I feel like I've seen him take worse hits than what we saw, but regardless, it's definitely the scariest thing about this game that we saw.
Yeah, I won't speculate on the injury because there's a few different injuries that can be, ranging from not so severe to where to he might miss games, plural. I don't really know which one it is. The thing that I took away the most was Draisaitl left his feet, and I'm surprised that didn't result in a stricter punishment for him.
No,
but I wouldn't be surprised if he gets fined for it. Left his feet. It was a dirty play. I don't view Draisaitl as a dirty player.
No.
But that was a dirty play. You can't
I agree. There were a lot of dirty plays, by the way. Let's just acknowledge that. There were a lot of dirty plays made by Edmonton in this game. We have one more to go to talk about towards the end of this reaction, but my God, this was not a good look for Edmonton, just generally speaking. Toronto is going to be busy sending some players some letters for Edmonton off of what they did tonight. But the only thing they couldn't do is score after the first period. So
Bob was amazing.
The first goal was silly. The first goal he let in was silly, goofy. Regardless, it's something that obviously, if it was game one, Bob was stopping that. But it didn't happen that way tonight. Regardless, after that, I thought he locked in. He locked in after that.
He did. And Matthew Tkachuk, who some have criticized for being a little quiet this series, perhaps unfairly, had a fantastic defensive play against Connor McDavid. Connor McDavid finally gets on a breakaway late in that game with a few minutes left, and this was before the empty netter. You think maybe this is the thing that gets him back in the game. Matthew Tkachuk is jockeying with McDavid the entire way. It's just Tkachuk and McDavid, to the point where some of the Oilers players were looking for a penalty, and that's how you know it's good defense. You're playing such good defense that everyone thinks, oh, surely that's a penalty. Fantastic defense, and it was all Bobrovsky put the exclamation point on that with a nice leg blocker save at the end of it. Just a fantastic showing.
God, McDavid is the Tyreek Hill of hockey, man. He is so freaking fast.
He really
is. It is crazy to see. However, he hasn't done much. I think McDavid got a point for that goal in the first period. I'll have to double check. But beyond that, it's been an otherwise quiet. It's been a quiet game for the best player in the world. Okay, yeah, he got an assist on that goal in the first period, but still, definitely not what people had expected from a player like McDavid or Draisaitl for that matter.
And I think that's the biggest surprise for me is that, I told you during the first episode of the series, I don't watch a whole lot of Oilers games, so I only know a limited amount. I kind of thought that the Oilers were one-dimensional. Like, I knew that Skinner was a good goaltender, but he's vulnerable if you can attack him right. Their defense is fine. But I thought if you stop McDavid, Draisaitl, and Hyman, you are winning easily. And I feel like they haven't won easily. I know today they really pulled ahead in the third. The first two periods, like, they weren't really getting their chances.
No.
And in the first game, they got outplayed. So I'm surprised. I mean, I don't want to say that the Panthers aren't playing as well as I thought because they're up 2-0. But still, if you told me that they are keeping McDavid at bay, I would have thought each game must have been 5-0.
Yeah. And thank you for bringing up that breakaway, by the way, because that's another thing I wanted to talk about. I think both of our biggest concerns from game one was the fact that Edmonton got as many breakaway chances as they did, in which it was just Bobrovsky saving the puck and saving the game for Florida. We both felt like they had to address that, and I feel like that McDavid breakaway was the only real breakaway of that game that had any chance at all for Edmonton.
Yeah, well, the only other one was the Lindholm goal, where it was a 2-on-1 rush. That was the other one that I can remember off the top of my head.
It was a 2-on-1. As far as just 1 versus 0 breakaways, which we saw a lot in game one, they stopped that. They stopped that game too. So mad respect to them for that. Moving on, Evan Rodriguez would ultimately find the back of the net again with a tip-in, assisted by Lundell and Ekman-Larsson with 12 minutes in, so 8 minutes to go. It really felt like prior to that, one more goal could probably do it for Florida, and they got that with Rodriguez, who, again, is he a Conn Smythe dark horse finalist? I don't know. He might be.
He's putting his name on the voting ballot at least.
I know. I still feel like you have to give the nod to Bobrovsky because of what he has done. But my God, Edwin Rodriguez turned into prime Wayne Gretzky today. And it was just beautiful to see that, you obviously expect your players like Barkov, Reinhart, Verhaeghe, and Tkachuk, and then it's a matter of, all right, who can assist the big four of this team? And it's so far this series, especially tonight, it's been Evan Rodriguez.
Absolutely, and it was a beautiful shot right between Skinner's legs. He went 5-hole there. It was just a wonderful shot on both those goals, really.
With 7 minutes to go, Evander Kane gets hit with an unsportsmanlike reminder. He has not had a single shot this series so far. So, I mean, I don't know what to tell you about Kane except he's become I don't want to say he's a liability because he can be a great player, but my God, he has done nothing for this team. By the way, interesting, the Corey Perry late scratch for Edmonton. I was not expecting that as we were getting set to go. But, yeah, he did not play tonight for Edmonton. I was a bit shocked about that.
Yeah, and I anticipate even more line changes going into the next game. Their head coach is pretty well known this year for making changes even when they're winning.
Yeah.
He made changes from game 1 to game 2. And I would anticipate that they're going to have another look, a different look game 3. By the way, can you confirm this for me? But I'm pretty sure, going back, speaking of line changes, Evan Rodriguez was moved up to the first line before that first goal.
He was.
Paul Maurice himself made changes, and he put Evan Rodriguez right up there on the first line and paid dividends almost immediately.
So, again, another thing that Chris Knobloch might be getting asked about. With 5 minutes to go, 5 minutes is such a long time in the sport of hockey. A lot can happen in 5 minutes. They decided to take out Skinner that early in the third period. Granted, I get it, you're down by a few goals, but you already have a man advantage with that. No, you didn't. It was a 4-on-4 because if Kane was hit with the unsportsmanlike and Montour was hit with roughing.
Yeah,
so
it got really messy towards the end. It was a 4-on-4, a 4-on-3 at one point.
They still decided to take out Skinner through all of that, and I kept thinking to myself, this could play out so absolutely terrible for the Oilers if they get their empty netter early because, God, I don't like the call of taking out Skinner with 5 minutes to go. And while it did take a while, the Panthers ultimately got their empty netter from Ekblad with like a little under, I think, 3 minutes to go. Ekman Larson made everything a bit more harder with that delay of game. Just to add another piece of crap onto the already crappy situation for Florida at that point, Larson was hit with a delay of game, which obviously that also sucks to see. Thankfully, it didn't really amount to anything.
Yeah.
So and then with 2 minutes to go, the hockey game is over. With 2 minutes to go, the hockey game is done. We now get into a cage fight as Edmonton boils over. And Kevin Stenlin by Sam Carrick. What was he thinking? He hit Stenlin in the boingaloings, the ding-a-ling, the ouch. My God, why would he do that, Alex?
Yeah, things got real dirty and real muddy there.
I know.
I made a comment, and it was actually after the Barkov won, and it only rang even more true as the game went on in those final minutes. I know that you have a game to win. At the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if Ryan Lomberg is activated for Game 3.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when your captain had to miss the last 10 minutes of the game because of the aforementioned dirty hit from Draisaitl. Someone needs to come in. I don't want to sound like one of those Boston fans. But I would like Lomberg out there at least to give Edmonton something to think about.
I agree with that. And maybe we'll see it, maybe we won't. But still, that always sucks to watch. As a man, Alex, you can relate. My God, that sucks to watch. The slow-mo, showing the replay a couple of times, Jesus, that sucks to see. Thankfully, Kulikov walked it off, and he didn't miss any time. But I feel bad for his children. Anyway, after that, again, there wasn't much of a hockey game after that. And then the game was over, 4-1 in favor of Florida. So, just what a game. Just, again, I don't want to say comeback cack, but you can't deny that they scored 4 unanswered goals after Edmonton got their first in the series.
That's funny that you mentioned comeback cats because they haven't needed to be the cardiac cats this year in terms of coming back from large deficits. But what I have noticed is that they get consistently better as the game goes on in a sustainable way. like every game, they're just better in the 60th minute than they were in the first minute.
Yeah, that's their style of hockey. You know, it's like everyone says, wear and tear, wear you down kind of hockey, where you just can't keep up with Florida's aggression as the game goes on. They're so goddamn good at doing that. And once again, it reared its beautiful face today against Edmonton. So. And again, Florida's defense has been absolutely stellar. These two defensive performances in Game 1 and Game 2 are some of the best we've ever seen in Panthers postseason franchise history. Because again, in the first round, Edmonton scored 11 goals in the first two games. In the second round, in the first round against Los Angeles. In the second round against Vancouver, they scored 8 goals in the first two games. Against Dallas, they scored 4 goals in the first two games. And against Florida, they have only managed to put up 1 goal and have been outscored 7-1. So absolutely beautiful work from Florida's defense to do what, again, they've done all postseason, which is to limit what the star players of the other team can do. And such is the case. McDavid and Draisaitl have very empty-looking score sheets through Game 1 and 2, and that's unbelievable.
Absolutely. I'm just excited. I'm excited. This is the closest they've been to a cup. I'm not jinxing anything. I'm not, the job's not done. But just factually speaking, this is the closest they've been to a cup. They're 2 games away. And I'm so excited to see the adjustments that Chris Knobloch makes. And I'm excited to see what adjustments Paul Maurice makes in response.
If he even makes any. Knobloch. He's a rookie coach, dude.
Yeah, this might just be an Andrew Brunette thing where if you're not winning to start the series, it's just over for you.
I know.
Right? There's no adjustment. You're either better than the other team or you're not. And if you're not better, then that's it. You kind of saw the same thing with Andrew Brunette his first year here, where, there is no plan B. If plan A doesn't work, that's it.
So far this series, Florida has absolutely been the better team. A lot of people had arguments that they weren't even after the Game 1 win. But I think they proved everyone wrong tonight in Game 2.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they did their job. So, looking at the statistics, looking at some of the stats of this game, for the Panthers, Barkov and Bennett both had some solid shots on goal. However, Bennett himself got an assist today. Lundell had another solid game, a sort of unrecognized game on his part, but he had 2 assists on the night, so good on him. And then as far as who was the most physical person, it had to have been Sam Bennett, with 6 hits on the night as well. And then Bobrovsky, he played good, but he didn't have to do much tonight. Only 18 saves.
Yeah.
I don't even know how many high percentage shots he had to deal with today, but it had not obviously it had to have been just a fraction of what he had to deal with in Game 1. So
could not have been much. And Paul Maurice said at the beginning of the playoffs, this is exactly what he was talking about. He said save percentages, especially with Bob, are very, very misleading. Because Bob, we would all agree that Bob had a great night tonight. Mm-hmm. But he only had to face 18 shots. But I'm sorry, did you say he faced 18 shots or he made 18 saves?
He made 18 saves. He had to face 19 shots. 19 shots. He only gave up that one.
But because you give up 1 in 19, your save percentage is not going to look fantastic.
No.
I think. Don't make me do math right now. But I think your save percentage won't look fantastic. But we would still agree that Bob played fantastic tonight.
He did, obviously. And if you were to ask that to Bob or Coach Maurice, they don't care. They don't care what it looks like on the stat board because they just won by a score of 4-1 over one of the best offenses in hockey. So they don't care. They wouldn't care about that. Aside from that, what else is there to really note about? A pretty physical game. Actually, not even that physical. 37 hits for Florida, 32 for Edmonton. They finally broke that absolutely insane streak that Edmonton had as far as penalty killing. They said that if they were to hit, they were at like 31 or 32. If they hit 39, they would have tied the all-time Stanley Cup or postseason record with I think Anaheim, and Florida broke that. So so much for that for the Oilers. They finally cracked the code on the power play, which is good to see. Hopefully they can expand upon that in games 3 and 4, where power plays could be even more useful than ever on the road.
Absolutely.
So aside from that, 14 takeaways for Florida compared to only 4 by Edmonton. However, both teams were kind of sloppy at times. 17 giveaways for Edmonton, 16 for the Cats. I mean, again, the Amerant Bank Arena was packed, jam-packed. They even set like the loudest decibel. I don't know how legit this is, but they set like the loudest decibel ever achieved in the Stanley Cup Finals game and in hockey history, which I find it kind of hard to believe. No disrespect to the fans of Florida that were at the game. That is really hard to believe that happened. It's just something I never would have expected. I don't know how legit that is. Aside from that, I don't know how much you like to hear these percentage statistics that they keep talking about during the game, but they say that there's a 91% chance that the team that wins the first 2 games of the Stanley Cup at home just ends up flat out winning the Stanley Cup. And I don't
Those are crazy numbers.
And I don't know how much I really like to hear about it because, anything can change, They could absolutely put up a stinker on the road, and then we're back to an even series. I want to see that happen. I'm not predicting it, but anything can change, So I don't know how much you can take that with a grain of salt or not, but I guess it is worth noting that, yeah, Florida is in a really, 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 really good position to win the Cup. As you said, the best they've ever had in franchise history. So like we said earlier, they're now in a position where they don't need to go. Obviously, they want to go for the sweep. They don't need to do that necessarily. If they can just get one game, either games 3 or 4. If they win in game 3, they're probably winning game 4. I'm just saying. If they're winning game 3, they're probably winning game 4.
No, I would go the other way. I think that when you go up 3-0, I think that 4th game is the hardest to win.
It depends on how they win. If it's like if Florida wins an overtime heartbreaker for Edmonton, I don't know how much they would have left in the tank for game 4, But I don't know. If Florida wins at least one game on the road, they'll be back in Sunrise with the 3-1 series lead, which would be absolutely surreal. So regardless, hopefully everyone on Florida is healthy. That obviously includes Sasha Barkov. Hopefully he'll be good to go for game 3. He won't need to miss any time practice-wise or just generally. Hopefully he's just good to go now. But we'll have to do like a prayer for that, right? Because Barkov brings so much to this team defensively. Obviously, he's the award winner in that category. Florida's defense still looks great, even with Barkov out. I'm just saying. But Barkov definitely brings so much to this team that seeing him miss any game in this series would be just an absolute heartbreaker, that would super suck. I think he'll be okay though. Just staying positive here. I think he'll be back for game 3. So
we hope. Yeah. I'm pulling into my residence now, so now I'm going to go look at the video share of all of the interviews and see if Paul Maurice has a nice little update for us. Hopefully, a positive update.
Yeah. Let me quickly just take a gander over at Twitter. Check out Colby or Jameson, see if there's any news on that front, just because now, definitely need to check that out. My dad predicted the final score of this game, by the way, 4-1. So shout out to my dad. Alrighty then, Alex. Good episode. There's not a whole lot to say, really. Funnily enough, it's game 2 of the Stanley Cup Final. There was some drama in the third period, but otherwise it's been a pretty dominant stretch of 2 games for the Panthers here against the Oilers. And again, I'm happy there's an extra day to rest for the Panthers. I'm also not happy because I want to watch game 3 now. And we had to wait an extra day.
I know. 3 days without hockey. Yeah, I don't like it. Actually, no, 2 days without hockey, right?
I don't like it, but I guess I have to respect it because obviously
it's the perfect time to have 2 days off with Barkov dealing with whatever he's dealing with.
Yeah. So it is what it is. Looking at some things by Colby. I'm looking at Colby. Shout out Colby Guy, a friend of the show. Nothing yet on Barkov's situation, regardless. Okay. Alrighty then. So game 3, we'll be back at it. That is on Thursday at 8:00 on ABC and ESPN Plus. For again, your final score for tonight's game. It's the Panthers 4 and the Oilers 1 as they take a 2-0 series lead in the Stanley Cup Final, looking for that first trophy in franchise history. So, Alex, what was your final thoughts on the game, if you have any?
Final thoughts on the game. The Florida Panthers will be just fine as long as they keep with timely goals. I would like for them to come a little bit earlier in the game. But like we mentioned just a couple minutes ago, they just get better as each game goes on, so I never feel like they're out of it. I don't want to say weary, but I'm definitely eager and a little bit anxious to see what adjustments Chris Knobloch cooks up on that long flight back to Edmonton and see if the Panthers can adjust to those adjustments.
Are you willing to admit your score prediction prior to this game of what tonight's game would be?
I did think that there would be a little bit of regression. I thought that Edmonton would put up 4 goals tonight. No disrespect to Bob. I just thought, like, McDavid, Draisaitl, and Hyman have to, like, explode at some point, right? Like, at some point, they've got to. It's one of those things where, like, I'm saying this because I'm scared. I'm scared that Connor McDavid hasn't scored yet. And so I keep thinking it's going to happen, right? It's like when you're watching a scary movie and the music starts getting louder and louder, but nothing scary has happened yet, which makes you even more scared. Because like when it does happen, it's going to be really bad, right? So I just, you know.
Any final thoughts on your order at Flanagan's?
Oh, man, Flanagan's is the place to be. Flanagan's, I got wings. I had dinner before I went there, so I only had the 5 count of wings as like just something to have in front of me.
Were you at least smart enough to bring your Flanagan's cup?
No, I wasn't, but I did have the rock and rib rolls. Rock and rib rolls are amazing. Fire. They were rocking. They were rocking and they were rolling. So I'll be back at Flanagan's. I don't know which Flanagan's. We got so many Flanagan's across this beautiful Tri-County area of ours.
And yet we don't have one in Homestead. God damn. Flanagan's, if you're somehow watching this, drop one in Homestead yesterday. Come on, guys.
Yeah, that's surprising. I'm surprised they don't stake their claim there because I don't think they would have a whole lot of competition. I think that they could open up like a 3-story Flanagan's in Homestead and they would fill it up every night.
We have a Sonny's barbecue, which is pretty good. And not to mention Shivers on US 1, which is a bit far out, but still in the area. But yeah, they're only now building the first Chick-fil-A in Homestead. I've passed by it a few times. They're finally building a Chick-fil-A here. Again, weird state of affairs here in Homestead, but I digress. Thinking about Flanagan's, I always feel the way. Did you get anything from that Flanagan's night at the Marlins game?
No, I couldn't make it. I was actually down in the Keys that weekend, and I stopped in Homestead, and I got Cane's. I stopped at Cane's. Raising Cane's.
Yeah, it's controversial to some. I think it hits the spot. So
I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, not amazing, but pretty good. Alrighty, Alex, have a good rest of the night, and can't wait for more hockey. So again, game 3, Thursday at 8:00. Go watch it. Until then, I don't know. Watch some highlights. Watch some more of me and Alex and the Puckets Ended In podcast. Watch some replays as we get set to go for game 3. It should be a fun one. So until then, go Panthers. Rest up. And let's go, baby. But we're going on the road.